In lesson 44, we're solving right triangles, and our first example we're finding missing parts of a triangle, and we'll use the trigonomic functions to do so. We're going to begin by solving for the measure of angle B, and this time we're just using how much the inside angles of a triangle would add up to, which is 180 degrees. So I'd say B plus 24 plus 90 degrees, because that's what that right angle means right there, equals 180. Then I would add my angles I know together. So that would be 114 equals 180 plus B. And then we'd subtract the 114 to move it to the other side. Oh, started to put a, got my 4 there a little early. So B is going to equal 66 degrees. And then I'm going to use the tangent of 24 degrees and set that equal to my opposite over adjacent. Now I know to use tangent because I'm given the adjacent angle, or the side, I'm sorry, the adjacent side and the opposite side. And opposite over adjacent is related to the tangent function. If you're never certain or you have trouble figuring out which one to start with, list them out to the side. See, if I was going to do sine of 24, that would be y over h. So see, I would have two variables in one equation, so I couldn't solve for either one using that equation. For cosine of 24, I would have 9.5 over h, and I can use that to solve for h. And then for tangent of 24, I have what I have listed down here is y over 9.5. So I can use both the cosine and tangent functions to find h and y. So for the tangent, 24 equals y over 9.5. I just need to multiply both sides by 9.5. And on this side it would cancel. And then I would need to just put that in my calculator. It's going to give us a decimal answer. So 9.5 times tangent of 24. And that's 4.23, and that is approximate. I round at the hundredths place. Right, and then we'll still need to find h. Now you could use the Pythagorean theorem to find h, and that would be okay, but I think it's a little quicker to do cosine. So cosine of 24 equals 9.5 over h. I would multiply both sides by h, so that cancels here, and then divide. I'd have h cosine 24 equals 9.5, and then just divide both sides by cosine 24. And that again will give you a decimal answer. So I go 9.5 divided by cosine of 24, and that's 10.399. So I'm going to round that to 10.40. So that's my answer for h. So our hypotenuse is 10.40, and then our leg y was 4.23, and then our missing angle was 66 degrees. All right, let's look at the next example. So again, I'm going to start by finding my missing inside angle, but you wouldn't have to. You could start by finding m or x, and that would be fine. But to find angle B, I would have b plus 35 plus 90 equals 180. Then add my 35 and 90 together, so b plus 125 equals 180. Then I'll subtract 125 to move it to the other side, so b equals 55 degrees. Okay, and then on 35, I have to decide what trigonomic function to use. So I'm just going to list them out to the side here to see which ones would work for the sides I'm given. Now remember, for angle 35, this is my opposite side, and this is my adjacent side, and then this is the hypotenuse. So for sine of 35, that'll equal x over 14. For cosine of 35, I would have m over 14. And then for tangent of 35, I would have x over m. So I could use the cosine and the sine, but I couldn't use the tangent because it has two variables whenever I set up its ratio. So I'll start by using the sine of 35 equals x over 14. And I'll just multiply both sides by 14. So they'll cancel on that side. And then I just need to multiply this together. It'll give me a decimal answer. So 14 times sine of 35. And that is x equals 8.03 when I round to the hundredths place. Okay, and then I'm going to use the cosine to find m. So I'll have cosine of 35 equals m over 14. Again, multiply both sides by 14 like I did before. And then m will equal, let me multiply this out, 14 cosine 35, which is 11.47 when I round to the hundredths place. Okay, now some of you need to, or might need to enter this differently in your calculator. You might have to put 35 cosine to get this and then multiply it by 14. It will depend on how your calculator works, exactly how you enter that. Alright, one more example, and this time we have two missing angles and a missing side. So let me set up my sine, and if I go with sine of A, that would equal x over 6. Cosine of A would equal that would have been x over 7, sorry. X over 7, because that's my hypotenuse over here. And then cosine of A would be 6 over 7. And then tangent of A would be x over 6. Now you can see this won't work because I have an A and an x. This won't work because I have an A and an x, but I can use this right here with the inverse function of cosine, and that would be the cosine to the -1 on most of your calculators. Some of you might have to hit the inverse button, which is INV usually on your calculator. So you could look for those two buttons, depending on how your calculator is set up. But I can use that to find angle A. So I'm going to do A equals cosine -1 6/7. So I just need to enter that in my calculator. On mine I have to hit second in cosine to get my inverse function. And then I'll do 6 divided by 7 and enter. and that is about 31.00 degrees. Okay, and then for B, we can set up the sine, cosine, and tangent and see which one we need to use. As you practice those more, it'll be easier to see which one you need to use. So if I did sine of B, that would equal 6/7, and since that's what I need to use, I'm not going to set up the others, but you could list out the cosine and tangent if you weren't sure at this point. So I need to go B equals the inverse function of sine. That's what we use when we're finding the angle instead of the ratio. Anyway, 6/7. So second sine, 6 divided by 7 equals, now this is 58.997, so that's going to round up to about 59 degrees. So B equals 59.00 degrees. And then the last thing I need to find now is x, which you could just use the Pythagorean theorem. So it'd be 6 squared plus x squared equals 7 squared. So I'd have 36 plus x squared equals 49. And then subtract the 36. So x squared equals 13, and then take the square root of both sides. So x equals square root of 13. Alright, so we found all our missing sides, and with practice, these will be easier to remember.